I will call the meeting to order. We good? Loud. We'll start off with a roll call of board members. Keith McGrigan here, Shane Wells, not here yet, but he might show up. Amy Hanneman.
Here.
Brian Winslow.
Here.
Stephanie Arroyo.
Here.
And we can go around, everybody introduce themselves.
Jocelyn Young, principal.
Bob Sullivan, business administrator. Nate Byrne, director of student services. Scott Lee,
Thank you.
superintendent. Thank you.
Judy Joel, secretary.
All right. Thank you. Do we have a student representative to lead the Pledge of Allegiance tonight?
We do. We have
Awesome.
Grant Sauls, a second grader from Mrs. Gibson's class.
How you doing?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So bills and manifests are going around, I
Here.
assume? Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about our representative tonight?
Sure. Grant was nominated by Ms. McDonald, and that was heartily seconded by Mrs. Gibson. He was described to me as being very conscientious and responsible. He's a friend to all. He's funny. He's kind. He's helpful to those in need of a friend, and he works well with everyone. He's also a busy guy. He's fitting us in tonight along with scouts and lacrosse practice, so he has a schedule to maintain. Just saying.
So are you going to be at the lacrosse jamboree on Saturday? Yeah. Black Bears? Black Bears. Might see you there. So.
I'll see you.
Is there anything you wanted to tell us tonight? Seems really loud. No.
Well, Grant and I talked a little bit this afternoon, and I coached him that you might ask him what his favorite thing about school is, and he had a great answer.
That's true. I do ask that a lot. So why don't I go ahead and do that? What is your favorite thing about school then?
The teachers.
Awesome.
And considerate.
That's very nice. It's not because she's sitting right behind you, right? What is your least favorite thing about school then?
I don't know.
Nothing? No, I'm okay with that. Well, thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it. Does anybody else have anything they want to ask?
Are we gonna win on Saturday?
I think so.
Okay.
All right. Great, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, pen. So looking at our agenda, we do have a couple after-school presentations. I think one might be here, one might not be here yet, so if the board's okay with it, maybe what we'll do is do the one that's here, and then when the other one shows up, we'll just, whatever we're doing, we'll take a break and switch gears. That makes sense to everybody. Is there anything else on the agenda that might need to be changed for tonight?
Not that I noticed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You're looking for a woman named Emily.
I would like everyone to know that I'm very interested in continuing the after-school program here in Northwood. I have operated the program for 25 years. I'm a member of the community. I've lived here since I was 11 years old.
I don't think it's on.
Oh, it's off. I didn't even know. Which one is this?
Okay.
Should I start over?
Sure, yeah, go for it.
Okay, well, I've owned and operated the program for 25 years, and I'm very interested in continuing the program here in Northwood. It's a state licensed program. We have 38 children enrolled at the current time. All my staff has to complete 18 hours of professional development each year and have CPR and first aid. Even the high school students have to do that. We offer many activities at the after-school. We play outside. We have arts and crafts, puzzles, slime making, Legos, blocks, board games. Homework time is offered if children have homework. I'm always looking for a little extra help. Some days we have 3 or 4 people on, but I'm always looking for extra help. So I hire high school students as well to help out. Do you have any questions for me?
So just looking at the tuition, I guess you have it all in here. How many, it's 2 hours a day?
3.5.
3.5 hours a day? Okay. And so 5 days is 165. So are these billed like month per month, regardless of how many school days are actually in the month? Like
Yes,
even
it's-
vacations and stuff like that?
Right, I don't do vacations, but it's 10 equal monthly payments.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if you're looking for before school, but I could do before school if it's needed. I mean, if there's a lot of demand for it, I wouldn't mind offering it.
Can I ask, what is your typical staff for?
Myself,
Okay.
yeah, myself, the director,
Yeah,
a group leader, maybe 2 group leaders, and 2 high school students.
so 3 adults and 2
Yeah,
high school students, okay.
right now I'm hiring 1 more adult, so I'm not shorthanded, but I'm looking for 1 more.
And how many kids? 38, you said? Is that what
Yes.
they're- 38 is the average? Is that typical for, I mean, you've been doing it for 25 years, is it? I'm just asking you because I don't know.
A little more this year, in the past year, because I guess the economy has changed a little bit, and years past, it was a lot less students, like maybe 20, 25. Now we have the kindergarten as well, so that brings the numbers up a little bit.
Sure, yeah.
Yep.
The other thing I was wondering is, like, what do you hear from the parents about, like, what do they want? Like, what do they tell you? Like, do they want lower tuition, or want, different activities?
I haven't
or-
had any complaints or
Okay.
questions about that. I seem to have a good relationship with all the parents and the children. If they ask me for something, I certainly would try to provide it. It wouldn't be a problem. Yeah.
Thanks, sorry to monopolize the conversation. You guys have any other questions?
Do you think you have enough people to run the program, the student to staff ratio?
Yes.
Do you think that's enough?
Yes. And I do have backup if I need it.
And do you have anybody on a wait list right now?
No.
Do the kids have to do their homework? Are they encouraged to sit down and do their homework?
They do not have to do their homework. I have the older kids that actually come in, sit down, start right in on their homework. I find that most of the younger kids want to do their homework at home with their parents. So it's really kind of up to the kids and the parents. If I have a parent that says, I need my child to get their homework done, then we work on it together.
And so, are you you're at the cafeteria for most of the time? And
Yes.
then, like, on the playground when weather permitting, is that how it works?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have activities that you typically do, games or stuff like that that are
Yes.
organized? Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
So I haven't been to one, so I'm like, I'm lucky enough that I haven't need to use it.
We have a closet full, 2 closets full.
Yeah. Do we have any other
I
questions?
just had one question around the rates. So looking at the monthly tuition rates, you have like 5 days is 165, 4 days is 138, and so on down through. That's per week, so.
Per month,
So it's 5 days per month
yes,
is 165?
yes.
So if you were doing the whole month, you would times that by 4.
No,
I mean,
it's 165 for the whole month.
for the whole month.
Like, it's like 42.50 a week.
Is there flexibility between which days the parents select? Like if 1 week they want to do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the next week they want to do, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, is that doable? Like how
Yes.
flexible is that with staffing and
Yep,
ratios and stuff?
yeah, we can do that.
Anything else? You guys want to add? Right.
I'm all addict. I've seen this twice.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, sure. So we're gonna wait 1 minute here, and give them a chance to get set up. I don't think we have any need for a non-public session to begin with. If somebody has anything? Anything? All right. So let's just jump to opening public comment. Does anybody in the audience like to take this opportunity to address the board? Yeah.
I ask, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
do I introduce myself?
Sure, can you stand up to the microphone, just, otherwise he yells at us.
I am Melissa Sauls, I am Grant's mom. We're actually, this is our first year in Northwood, well, my husband grew up in Northwood, so that's why we're back. So we're new to the school, and new to the school board meetings. Are we gonna be able to ask questions to the presenters, or like you did, or is that allowed?
We could, if the board is okay with that, I'm okay with that.
Okay, all right, I just
Yeah.
wanted to know.
Did you have something you wanted to ask before
Nope,
that?
I just
or-
wanted,
or-
I had one comment on Ms. Warren's presentation. We had Grant in after-school care down in Massachusetts, and her monthly rate is very reasonable, so it works out very well. It's a reasonable rate.
All right. Great, thank you. Anyone else? So there will be an opportunity to speak at the end as well, if anybody is so inspired by tonight's activities. All right, does any board member want to take this opportunity to address the board? No. All right, we're good. So we move on. We all set?
How's your technology working?
We can
Need a
start
minute?
without it if it's not working.
Well, no, it's.
Up to you, we can move on to other things and get back to you, it's up to you.
Yeah, we can go through.
Okay, we'll keep going. So moving on to our business, we have a consent agenda with board minutes on it from 5:16. That need to be approved.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Get that?
Who did the second?
Pick one.
I'll take this one.
You guys
Next
have got to,
one.
you know, one at a
I
time.
know. Doesn't help that we sit next to each other.
Any discussion on this? I would just like to say, again, I think these minutes are looking great, thank you.
Oh,
They're
Good,
doing a great
thank
job
you.
with those.
And anytime you want something changed, all you got to do is say something.
All right,
Did you vote?
not yet.
No.
Okay.
So if there's no more discussion, all in favor of approving the consent agenda?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, so motion carries 3 with
3-0.
1 abstention. Bob, or are we all set?
Yeah, just go on.
Okay. So, Mr. O'Sullivan, are you ready with our
Yes, I'll be
report?
succinct. And so let's turn to page 11. And the last time I was here, I said I had generated some history on the food service program before, when it was a program run by the district, and then starting in 2017, a food service program run by Fresh Picks. So what I wanted to show is that the transfer of dollars to cover losses mainly, what that history was from 2014 through 2018. The 2018 number, we're doing a little bit of more investigation on that particular number. So, in conjunction with the contract that you're being asked to approve, I just thought it would be appropriate for you to have some sense of what is the choice of going outside financially paying off, and I believe that it is. And then I want to draw your attention to the contract itself on page 26, section 9.07. And I just want to point out something interesting that you may already know. But in essence, this is a contract with a not-to-exceed loss guarantee.
Right.
And just to give you the history of the not-to-exceed loss number, in 1718, any loss beyond $2,957 was Fresh Picks loss. And that was mainly around their being in the first year and not really having a good sense of what the revenue would look like.
So any loss beyond how much?
$2,957. Fresh Picks had to absorb that.
And we had some fixed amount of cost as well.
There's I'm going to say maybe $5,000 of expenses that if you analyzed who's responsible, they're really building-related expenses. In 1819, I think they started to get a better sense of the program, and they increased the not-to-exceed number to $10,952. So that was how much the school district would be responsible for losses beyond that. In the contract that's being proposed, it's $12,341. And that number is shown on page, I believe it's 44 towards the bottom, just before the signature. So, but, you know, really, it's, the rest of the contract is principally boilerplate from previous years. And it has a lot to do with food regulations and responsibilities and stuff like that. But I just wanted you to have some sense of before and after. And people are very happy with the program. Here, I like the food.
So, the contract is from last year, was similar. I don't remember
Yes.
the exact amount, but it was somewhere in the
Well,
around
it was, the
10,000,
not to
right?
exceed loss was $10,952.
Okay.
That's,
So why? in
why
your-
are they increasing that?
No, well, no, I kind of get that, but why in your report they gave us in the first page there, did our transfer total $29,000?
Because I think that number is potentially incorrect, and we're investigating that. with
So this number here is
Fresh
incorrect,
Picks.
you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. Right, because I thought 10,000 was the limit of our liability, you know, ish. Here.
With also any losses that are associated with, or costs, I'll call it, that are associated with the building itself. We're responsible, for instance.
So maybe because we fixed the compressors in the,
Correct.
in the
You know, I
refrigerators
think
or whatever.
last year, there were two pieces of equipment that were repaired, that those are expenses that accrue to the district, so.
And you think maybe those are in this number then?
They would be, yeah.
Okay, that would make sense then, yeah.
Yeah.
So are we looking to, so this is the contract in its
That's
final
the
form now?
contract, it's the correct contract. I apologize again for the snafu of last meeting.
So while we're here, do we want to discuss, do we want a motion to authorize signature
If
of the contract?
anybody has more questions, I'll answer them, otherwise.
Questions? Anybody want to make a motion to approve the contract? Or do we want to look at it and come
I
back
mean-
next meeting and do it?
If we wait 2 weeks, will we still be able, will that cause major problems for you?
I don't think it will. I'm sure I'll get some phone calls because they thought at our last meeting we would be signing off on the contract, but
I mean, we don't have an alternative company at this point, like bidding, do we?
I think next year we will be bidding the contract because this was.
Right, this was a two-year
four-
contract. so
I think
this
there
is
were
the second year.
4 single-year contracts or sign-offs.
Yeah, I'm perfectly happy with doing this at our next meeting. This-
And I'll be at the next meeting too.
Okay. I'd be more comfortable with spending a little bit of time.
Yep.
I just wanted you to be familiar with how Fresh Picks works. And, you know, they try to keep their costs, you know, rock bottom, and I think that they do.
Okay, I'm gonna add that to our agenda for next meeting. It's just gonna be a vote because I need discussion. I mean, unless something comes up, I mean, so take a look and come back with anything.
That's everything I had actually for this evening.
So are there any other fresh picks or food contract questions?
I don't know.
Right, we have you down for the capital reserve.
Um,
Was it permanent record numbers?
Permanent record?
Yeah,
I'm happy to take you through the permanent record.
that'd be great.
So, when you as a school board or the community as a warrant article passes, I'll give you one that you can all relate to, SB2. That would have been passed by the community. And the State Department of Revenue Administration keeps what they call the permanent record, and it's a record that reflects when a motion or a article like this was agreed to by the town. They'll ask, is this just for a year or until rescinded? And those will be marked off. Also part of the permanent record will be all of your trust funds. And that's probably an area that's always worthwhile to be familiar with as a board, because within the permanent record are the constraints when the warrant was passed for a trust fund, the constraints on how that trust fund can be used. So if there's an error in any of these constraints, then I need to know, and I do work with DRA to try to make sure that they've got this up to date. And I believe that yours is up to date.
So is this the total of the information that we have, that the state has or whatever?
Yes.
On our stuff? Do you happen to have the current balances of these?
The trust funds?
Yeah,
Not with me, but I can get them for you for the next meeting.
that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Happy to.
Do you know anything about the third one on here?
Which one's that? The retirement payouts?
The one that has no purpose. The one above.
Has no
retirement.
purpose.
There's no purpose listed, I should say.
That is a good question, and I will research that back to 2010 and the meeting that occurred then.
Is that maybe the one, I remember at one point you guys found a capital reserve fund, and we weren't sure what
Yeah,
it was
we-
for.
we-
The issue that happens is when we get, although they are, I'm gonna say, word, lost it, because I just got something from Mr. Carter. When we went through, the problem was the trustees would list out all the accounts when we got them, like school and town, and then you'd have to do a lot of research and uncoding to try to figure out what was what. Now they're splitting them. Is this?
Yeah, they
right?
actually identify now by breakout
Right.
the school-based warrant articles.
Right, they all used to be lumped together.
Yep. I mean,
So-
I'd love to see all this information on all of them, just
Yeah.
balances, purposes and stuff like that. If we can, I mean, I don't know what everybody else is thinking. We could maybe even think about having the trustees come in. I mean, they're both local guys,
I
obviously.
mean, you could. The report's pretty simple and straightforward, and Mr. O'Sullivan just has to email the trustees and ask for the current balances and.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you're not here in the next meeting, if it's just in the packet.
I
I'd be happy.
definitely will be here for
He
the
only,
next.
he came as a guest tonight just to review your food service stuff.
Okay,
So
okay.
he's at
So
your next meeting.
that's why we have
So
no-
we can-
I can't get enough meetings under my belt.
Yeah, that was it. So, we're gonna put, so we get the Fresh Fix contract for the next meeting, and we've got,
Warrant
capital reserve
article.
Capital reserve
fund
funds.
balances.
Capital Reserve.
Mr. McGuigan, I have a printout from October of 2018, if you care what the balances were then. I'm sure they've changed a little bit. But.
I mean, yeah, I'm interested, but go ahead and read it out, and we'll.
Okay, so, school capital reserve fund, I have listed for the, school building fund, $113,353.10. I have for the special education fund, $102,787.76. For the high school tuition CR fund, CRFD, I assume that's fund, $161,232.28. For the teachers' retirement benefit CR fund, $46,264.63. for the school matching grant, CRF, $20,487.13, and for the total school capital reserve fund, $432,124.90. Is that what you were looking for?
Pretty much. There has been, so you've changed, the only piece of information that needs to be corrected is your school matching grant capital
Right.
reserve
Turned into
fund
the
has been
grounds.
converted to your building
Building and grounds.
grounds.
Yeah.
fund.
And again, this is from October 31st,
Right,
so
right,
yeah,
so
I'm sure the
it'll be
changes.
So, I mean, this may be just the board's thing. We're talking about looking at our CIP, Brian and I were earlier, and we do have a big expense coming up on our CIP for the playground, the upper playground revamp. What was it?
$80,000?
$80,000 in our next year's budget, so that we might want to consider maybe at our next, putting together warrant articles, that we might want to try to put some more money in there from the end of next year. I don't know if they'll make it in time, but something to keep in mind. And of course, we might do paving and use the capital reserve for paving as well. So. Okay, so do we have anything else for the business administrator at this point?
I'll see you in a couple weeks.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Maselli.
Okay, we're gonna rewind back to champions if you guys are ready. Yeah, no problem at all.
Thank you very much.
We're here anyway.
Is it okay if we stand over here? Is
Yeah,
it okay?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
oh, excellent, thank you so much.
We're in ratio every day, we can project. Without.
Thank you for having us tonight. My name is Emily Barnes. I am the area manager for the Champions programs here in New Hampshire.
And I am Carrie Kabacki. I am the area manager in Massachusetts. So I'm joining Emily in place of Kevin Eaton, our business development person, this evening.
We don't give a presentation like Kevin does. However, we're going to try our best tonight. We do the Champions before and after school programs. I'm going to just move to the next slide if I can figure out how to do that. So this slide kind of tells you guys a little bit about how many schools and how many children we are able to service every day. So we have about 535 schools nationwide and growing in about 160 districts, and we see about 29,500 and growing students every day. We have employed over 2,000 teachers, and we've been doing this for over 28 years.
Personally, for 15, not all 28.
Perfect. So we are a true believer in being a partner, not only within the community and in the school, but with our families that we service every day. Do you have anything?
Yeah, so how we partner with the school is we offer PTO babysitting. We try to be on the same thematic units with the school if that's something the district requests. How we partner with the community is through, we have a monthly service activity, so either collecting clothes for DCF, warm hands, warm hearts, collecting mittens in the winter. We try to get the children to make cards for the nursing homes. We usually do a big Veterans Day project, so we really want to be more than just within the walls of the program. And then for families, we offer a monthly family night, invite people in for some, it's hard for working parents to always make all the school events. So it's nice to have some options after school, like in the evening, to be involved in. So we do try to have those things all monthly across the board.
So we focus on these 5 pillars. First and foremost, engagement. One way that we show our engagement is we partner with Gallup. And they send out a survey not only to our parents yearly, but also to our districts and our staff. And we ask them, you know, how are we doing as a company and how can we improve? So the parents go in, they take the survey as well as the districts and our staff, and we get results. And it pretty much gives us an idea of what areas we can focus in to become a better company, to better serve the kids, the families, and the district.
Great. Our next pillar is our curriculum. So we have 2-week thematic units. Each site has a curriculum book as a guide, so it comes for the 2 weeks with 5 interest areas that will be out for the whole unit. And then there's a new daily project each day that goes with the unit, as well as children or choice-based clubs that the children will create on their own around their interests, and long-term service learning projects such as making yearbooks, photography, things of that nature.
Our next pillar focuses on quality. So one of our biggest things is, do you want to say the quote, Carrie?
So this is the Vice President of Education from our company says this: there's no such thing as good enough when it comes to the care of our children. So we take quality extremely serious. The area manager or another member of the education team will visit the program quarterly to do a wellness check on it, not just for safety, but is the quality there? Are we living up to everything that we promise in these presentations? Is that what you're seeing at program? Sorry, I'm so loud. So just to do a check, because we just want to make sure that we're constantly improving and making sure that's the best, that it can be for the children.
And then the next thing that we really focus on is inclusion. Within our company, we have an inclusion department. Basically, what this means is we are trying to ensure that every child that comes to us is successful in our program. So if there's ever a case where maybe we need a little extra help, we can always reach out to our inclusion department, and they are happy to help us come up with approaches that we can use within our classroom to help the children be successful within, our after-school program.
And the last thing is partnership, which we already talked a little bit about, just partnering with the school and meeting the district's needs the best of our ability. It's your program, so we definitely want, whatever you want to see in the program to be in the program. So we try to be a true partner with the school, with our families, and the community.
And I guess we'll be open for questions.
Yeah.
Any questions on any of the pillars? Perfect. All right, so we're going to go in a little bit more depth within our pillars. So again, back to engagement. We're here to build relationships with our parents, with our schools, with our community. So again, we always offer our monthly parent night, so our families can come on in and see what our programs are all about. We stay really close with our school. We have our site directors meet with our principals and the personnel within our schools to make sure that we're living up to what we promise and just make sure that everything is working well, and if there's anything that we can fix. So we're in constant communication with our schools, our families, all of that.
Okay, so the next thing is a little bit more about our curriculum. I do have a sample I can grab, of our curriculum book. So it gives the teacher the themes, and then within that it has suggestions based on the age level, so that they can really be customized to the older students and the younger students. I think Emily's passing it around. You can pick, it gives 3 choices for each day, so once you get to know your students a little bit better, picking the right choice for your children, and then skipping it and putting your own creative spin on it is also encouraged if you feel like you know your children better, and you can make it a little more exciting even than what the book suggested. We also encourage that. So it's not set in stone. We really want it to be customized to the children in that center and at that program.
With that all being said too, we are a choice-based program. So if the kids are just not feeling doing our curriculum that day, that's totally okay. We do believe in what we call like sneaky learning. So a lot of the activities that they are doing are very interesting to them, and as they're doing them, they're not even feeling like they're learning. So. So we really pride ourselves on being an extension of the school day. We are before and after, and we do have our curriculum, and we truly try to have the kids learn while they are with us. So. I don't know if you want to talk about this, Carrie?
So we are really big on STEM. We've recently added STEM carts to all of our programs. So it is, each center has 2 to 3 iPads, depending on the size of the program. And rather than just sit and play a game, which we know that your child could do at home, it's really interactive, where it takes 3 people to operate the game. So there is a reader, a doer, and an assessor. So as they play these games, it's not just zoning out, it's still very much communicating with one another, working towards a common goal. So they've been a really big hit. We're very proud of the tech cart that came out this year. That's our newest STEM piece. We also have, STEM challenges. The group I was just working with was building Roman architecture out of sugar cubes. So that's what we're talking about when we say sneaky learning, that we're talking about Rome, we're talking about ancient buildings, and they're getting to do it out of sugar cubes. So obviously they're just super excited to be using sugar cubes to build. But they're also going home with a lot of knowledge and being busy and creating something out of, different products. Okay. Stole your thunder.
So again, about our quality piece, I talked a little bit about the Gallup survey. We also use Gallup when hiring our staff. So as they're applying for a position with Champions, one of the tasks that they do is they take a survey, and basically it places it asks questions of our teachers, and it rates them to see if they are people who we believe would live up to our service values. So. Do you have anything to add about that?
No, just along with our teacher selection, we are licensed by the state of New Hampshire, so they also, in conjunction with this tool, have to meet all of the standards by the state of New Hampshire, so it is a licensed program.
Thank you.
And this is just a little more about what Emily was saying about constant improvement of assessing our sites, coming up with a plan, improving them, and sustaining that quality while still maintaining that model of continuous improvement. So like I just said, we added the STEM carts because that was a need from parents or a want from the children, and we're constantly doing that, like assessing what would make the program better, what can we add, how can we do it, add it, and then get to the next thing of continuing to improve the program. This is a little bit about our advanced ed accreditation. So we are an accredited program, so we've gone through a process. We partnered with advanced ed and had to, use our centers and our curriculum to receive that accreditation, similar to if you are preschool accreditation or something. So we are one of the only after-school programs that has received that accreditation status.
And then just a little bit more about our inclusion department. So we just believe that every child, we can take them into our program, and we try our best to make every child successful. And our inclusion department really helps us to do that. Like I said before, if we have a child who may not be as successful in program, we can reach out to our inclusion department and find out some ways to help make this child a little bit more successful into our program.
So this is just a little bit about the social emotional learning. Shouldn't be optional, so this is a big piece that we've added in the last year as well. So we are constantly, our curriculum will focus on it. So when you are looking at the curriculum, it'll tell you what section of social emotional learning. I believe it's on the side that activity is intended to reach, if it's character development, executive function, etc. And then just as a support. So it's something that allows us to be a little creative and hit on some of those things. So it's a little less like learning for the test and a little more active and engaged, you know, like not having to come to a finished product. Oh, this is, I don't know, another slide about our inclusion service team. We're very proud of it, in case you couldn't tell. It's a great resource. They are wonderful people. They get back to us within 24 to 48 hours if we have a struggling student in program. So we really try to make it work for every single student is welcomed, and really, you know, most students are successful because it is choice-based. They are able to move around the room. They're able to give us tools and tips. We have a break box in all of our program that has a weighted blanket, some fidgety things, you know, and they will give us tips on how to best use those based on the child's needs.
And then back to partnership, we, as the Champions program, really strive to be part of your community. So we, you know, really, I'm trying to, sorry, Carrie.
Okay, so
the words are not coming to me, sorry.
So we are really, do you want to be part of any community that we are in? So for example, my programs are in Boston, so that means that we are there, you know, at the citywide cleanup day. We are there for spring fling when the school is having their yearly carnival. We're there, we want to participate. We don't want to be considered as outsiders. We really want to be part of, you know, the community, the people that we are serving. We want to know your area. We don't want to get lost when we're driving here. Things like babysitting for the PTO, or if there was a big vote and you needed service tonight and we needed people to be here to offer childcare. Those things that we're like really happy to do and want to do to service like outside of just the children that are attending before and after school. So this is just a little saying how it's pretty easy for anyone that we partner with. You provide the space and we pretty much take care of the rest. Is what, you know, we do all the billing, the curriculum, the hiring, quality control by having our team come in and check on the program. So we try to make it as easy for the district as possible. Really shouldn't be a burden to have someone in your space. It should be, you know, it should make it better for the working parents. It's not to take away from anything that's supposed to be happening in the school. So we try to handle all of this stuff on our own, license the program, we bring the materials and supplies, all of that. So. Does anyone have any questions?
Can you talk a little bit about your student to staff ratio in a typical program setting, and then also some of the cost, you know, strategies? How much does it cost per week, or how's that broken out per?
So here in New Hampshire, per state licensing, it's a 1:15 ratio. However, our programs here in New Hampshire run at about a 1:12 ratio. As far as costs go, I do know Kevin Eaton. Perfect. Kevin Eaton, our business manager, has sent over the costs.
Yeah, so the cost that I have, now they use a different, I believe, every Wednesday before the next week, a parent needs to go into the online portal. I'm trying to read from this. And pick,
so do you want me to talk a little bit?
No, I think I got it.
Oh, okay, sorry. You are doing great.
Yeah.
You are.
So the parent picks the days they want the following week.
Okay.
So it's not a consistent year-long charge. Based on schedules they can choose. Their rates, I'll just do after school right now.
Yeah.
After school, 1 day is 26, 3 is 40, 4 is 53.
Say it slower. Say it again.
1 is 26.
1 day.
I'm going to
One
put
day
this in
what?
your next packet too.
Yeah.
1 day is $26, is that what you
Yeah.
said? Okay.
Yeah. 3 is 40. 4 is 53. And 5 is 65.
Per week.
A week?
Yep.
Okay. you. You explained that perfectly.
Yeah.
The 1 and 2 day rate is the same.
Okay.
That's the 2 day rate is, yeah, there's not a 1 rate. It's a
Oh,
1
it
to
is a
2.
1 to 2 day rate, so.
Most people come too.
Yeah.
Is that regardless of how many children you have attend?
That's
It's
per
the same-
child. That's
same
per
rate.
child. Usually there is a discount for the second child. That's usually 10%.
Do you guys have a minimum number of students you need to get the program started?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, I was curious about that.
We live by it. If you build it, they will come.
The other thing I would ask is, what other communities in New Hampshire or nearby here are you guys?
So we're
working with?
also in Hudson, New Hampshire and Windham, New Hampshire.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
So if this was a program that was like competitive to get into, like there are other towns around us that people will line up for hours to get into, what is your selection process if we have a bunch of people that want to get into the program? Or
So-
there's like a wait list or something?
Licensing is usually done by capacity of the room. So typically, once we reach a wait list at a program, we'll reach out to the school, explain that we have a wait list, see if there's any additional space to allow more students into the program. If there's not, then we have unfortunately a wait list. Usually we can work together to come up with something. Typically, you don't need too much space because you can divide into 2 groups. So when one group can go outside while the other group does homework and curriculum, then you can flip-flop, so it works out without too much additional space. We're usually able to let another 12 to 15 students in.
Is there any type of scholarship or assistance for struggling families, anything like that?
So we do have state subsidy,
Sorry about that.
but we do offer scholarships for students through the Champions Company as well.
Typically, if they apply for a state scholarship and they have a letter that says they've applied, if they're on a wait list or anything, we'll work with that family until the state, or if they maybe sometimes just miss it, then we'll work with that family as well.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Some questions?
good.
Oh, which one?
Yep.
So I'm a family, we have a child that goes to after school care, so obviously I'm vested interest in this decision. You spoke about teachers. Are these credentialed teachers or?
Sure. So New Hampshire state licensing has qualifications that each ranking of our teachers need to be up to par. So we have a site director who runs the site. We have teachers who are under them, and then we have site assistants. So all of my site directors in both Hudson and Windham all have bachelor's degrees. It is a qualification that they must have 12 credits towards either some kind of education field. It could be early ed, it could be teaching, and 1,000 hours of experience. So that's a site director, and then as far as a teacher, they must have at least 3 credits in the field and 600 hours of experience.
And where do you hire your teachers? Do you hire them
In the
locally?
community, yeah. Locally, yes.
So is it more than a minimum wage job that you're hiring for? And what are the hours of your program?
So my current programs in New Hampshire are 6:30 to whenever school starts in the morning, and then in the afternoon whenever school ends to 6 p.m.
And the other childcare you offer for other events, is that an extra charge? Or do you
It's
charge,
not. That's in partnership with the school.
and do you charge the families who are not a part of the after-school program?
No.
Your program also talked a lot, and I'm a mom who really loves structure. My son can attest to that, and even my husband actually might think I have a little too much structure. But these kids are in school all day in a very structured environment, and then after school care is homework and maybe a sport or maybe Cub Scouts. So a little bit, they want to play right after school. They need to like stretch out their legs and sort of get around.
So it's all choice-based, so it's not, nothing is forced. So the centers are out on all the tables, the 5 interest areas. They're offered, so a lot of kids will go to them, but we also have a whole building and construction cart. We have a whole art cart that they're also welcome to explore during that time. And we also definitely go outside or to the gym like daily. So we're also getting some fitness in each day. So typically like 30 minutes of fitness time minimum. And then we'll offer, usually the children are asked to like sit on the carpet and hear what the choices are, and then they can make a choice after that to do it or not to do it. Nothing is forced, it's all choice based.
And did you say test or testing?
No, I said like instead of testing, we're able to do some of the, a lot of districts have switched to almost having to stick to a really strict curriculum and eliminate some of the arts and things like that because of state testing. That might be more Massachusetts but so we're able to kind of still be able to do arts and crafts and things that have been eliminated from some of the.
Okay, so no testing of the
no
kids in
testing.
after-school program.
No
Okay.
testing.
No.
No, it's just for fun.
And what kind of commitment do you make to a school district, to a school? Is it a 1-year commitment? Is it a 5-year commitment?
It's up to the contract and how it's set up, so.
That's up to the district?
Yeah.
You can start with a 1-year commitment.
Right.
We'll recommend a 3-year commitment to start with, but the district can offer a 1-year test or a 1 year with an extension up to 3, depending on how things are working.
Right. And we wouldn't want someone to come in for a year and then leave the school district for some reason. Is there ever a reason that you leave a school other than the contract expiring? Low enrollment, for example?
It has to be, like, I won't say it's never happened. It's very unusual, and it's happened with, like, less than 5 students enrolled. So I don't want to give false information that it has happened, but it's been once. We've closed one program in the 15 years I've been here, and it's usually not after 1 year. It's after sometimes it's not the right fit,
Okay. I think that's all the questions I have.
If I could ask a question, you guys, I was interested in your inclusion pillar, and you talked about when students are not successful. Could you just describe like what a successful student in the program would look like? Is that someone who's engaged in the different activities that are offered, or?
So no, you could also be successful and still be like not choosing to do any of our activities. Absolutely. It's more of someone who might be harming himself or herself, a harm to the other students. That's what we would classify as maybe an unsuccessful, like
someone who's being potentially unsafe or
unsafe.
Having
So
disciplinary.
yeah, you're still very successful if you don't like any of our activities. It's okay. We'll go home and be a little sad, but we'll get over it. Yeah, that you're not forced to do anything and you can still be operating at, no problems. It's more if you're a harm to yourself, to someone else, or if the parent comes to us and is concerned that child never seems to be participating, he's not talking to anyone, if we work with the parent, then that might be something. Well, we have an inclusion department, we can contact them to see if they have any tips to get him more involved.
Thank you.
And I guess kind of speaks to that, like how do you handle disciplinary issues?
So we have a pyramid that we start at the very bottom and work our way up to the top. It's a progressive guidance pyramid. So at the very bottom is your basic redirection, make another choice please, like that's not a safe choice. Then we'll request like maybe you need to take a break. So we do have the break box that I mentioned. That's for all the children. So in that you'll find putty, some squishy toys, like I think you need to go calm your body. Could you go take a break, please? We try not to use, we really don't use the term like time out. They're always given a choice to do while they take a break. They're never put there like in a corner or by themselves at a table, like just sit here. We don't believe in that. So they will be given a choice while they calm their bodies. A little further up would be a logical consequence. So, if you're throwing the blocks across the room, maybe that's not a good choice for you to play with those for the rest of the day. Why don't you go play with something else, please? Up to then a parent, these are getting like small, like less and less kids. A call home, and then if it's if it becomes a harm to another student, then we might have to request a meeting for a progressive guidance meeting, and then the child would be set up on a plan to see if this is the right choice for the family, if it's safe for him to be there, or if it's ruining the other children's experience. That would be the only time that we would request a student to disenroll.
And then, just to add, when we meet with the parent, we do ask the parent, what kind of things do you do at home when you're noticing these kind of behaviors? Or are you? We always ask for the parent's input. because they know their kid pretty well, right? So we're asking, what can we do here at program to help your kid when these kind of things are happening? So,
Thanks.
It's more questions around fees and schedules and stuff. So is there like a one-time enrollment fee for the families? Did I miss that? Sorry.
So registration is 50 and then 75 per family, so if you have more than one kid per year.
Okay. And then in your brochure, your packet here, it talks about the before care, the after care, and then non-school days. So do you offer programming for non-school days, like snow days, or is that like vacation week?
We typically do not offer snow day because we are located in a school.
Right.
So it's just that, you know, typically if school is shut down, it's so the custodians can take care of it so we can open the next day. So we are closed for snow days. We try to offer break programs. Again, that's a decision with the district, if they have space for us, if we're allowed to be there for the day or not.
And then back to you said that before that parents are requested to sign up for the following week, what days they're going to be there. So if a parent didn't need you for 2 weeks, they could still come back on week 3 and sign up for those weeks.
And as long as they went online and deselected those days, you wouldn't be charged for the time that you're not there.
So as long as you pay that enrollment fee, you can pick and choose exactly what days
Correct.
you need. It's not based on.
So even if they don't go a whole week, they won't get paid?
As long as you change it
so-
online the week before, you're not charged for the time that you don't attend program.
That's really good. Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions?
Use this.
You can use
one of these.
I don't really need a microphone, but I'll. My name is Wade Sauls. I'm Grant's dad and Melissa's husband. And we do have a structured household, in case anyone wants to know. But, and I would like to thank you folks from Champions, right?
yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And I also want to thank the board for looking into this and trying to improve or offer more choices. I mean, I think it's important, and I appreciate you guys doing this. I can't really speak to your program, although it does sound like you've got a nice program going, but I can speak to Miss Warren's program. Grant has been a member, and remember, he's been going to the after-school program this year. And for us, the most important thing is, first, that he's safe, and second, that he enjoys it. And I can say without a doubt, we feel that both of those are happening, and Ms. Warren's program does do that. We haven't had any issues. He tells us what goes on. He tells us when something happens. And if we ever have any issue, which we have not had, outside of one of the little kids trying to take one of his cards or something, which was not a big deal, we can talk to Ms. Warren, and I brought it up and addressed it. So I will say that the program that she is providing, we're very happy with. Not that we would not be happy with yours, but we are happy with her current program, and Grant is happy with it as well. As a matter of fact, he gets angry with me if I try to pick him up early. So I've made sure that I don't pick him up before 4 o'clock, before he has a chance to play and do his stuff. So again, I just want to thank you for looking into this, and thank you both too. Okay.
All right. Any other comments?
Thank you.
Thanks, Dawn. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much.
So I think what we should do as a board is schedule a time to have a discussion on this. Probably not tonight, probably not next meeting. Actually, I'm just realizing that our next meeting has to be kind of special because it overlaps with graduation.
Yeah.
So we might not want to throw too much stuff on there. I don't know that we would need a special meeting if we get backed up. Like, what's our time frame look like on this stuff? we should best?
Let me just do the research while you're talking, and
Okay.
I'll let you know by the end of the meeting.
All right.
what I think.
So let's get that on. Does that make sense that we should do that as a separate item, or do you want to do things now? I mean, what do you guys feel? I would certainly,
It's gonna be non-public,
okay,
right?
it could be.
I assume.
Yeah, all right. So maybe we'll have some time to talk
Yeah,
about it tonight, and then we'll put it on a future agenda, whatever that may be. Okay. Okay. So unless we're going to take any other action on that, I think we will move on to the student services report.
Okay. So my report starts on page 49. I highlighted some of the things that the team has gone to make sure that we're staying up to date on any of the rules and changes. I also wanted to answer a question that you had had regarding the preschool, and the state did get back to me and said they couldn't disaggregate the information because the numbers were too low to disaggregate. That's why they only give us the overall preschool number. They don't work with any numbers that are consistently smaller than 10, so it would have to be 10 for quite some time in order to keep that number, and since they go up and down.
Cell size.
Cell size, so it's.
I'm trying to think why that would be, but probably privacy
Because-
type stuff, right?
Because you need over 10 kids in the cell to make the data static.
Correct.
So when you have under 9, you'll notice, do you remember your old reports that you used to get? And you'd see CS, cell size? It means that with their statistical method, they need at least 10 kids to count that progress or deficit.
So what they did was they lumped Stratford and Nottingham together in yours. So both Stratford and Nottingham had the size not met. So I'm going to report your numbers to them as a cohort, because that's the only way we could do it. That's the only way the state could do it at that point. Additionally, I wanted to go over some information that I received at my last monthly directors meeting. I'm not sure if you are aware of an article that was posted by the union leader back in January regarding a $10 million return over the last decade in federal funds from the state, from the districts. So what our state has done was they asked the federal government to reallocate those funds, and the federal government has granted a partial reallocation of those funds. And what that winds up being is they looked at each different district and figured out what you would be entitled to based on that money that was returned. Again, it wasn't over the course of the full 10 years, and I did do some research on the last several years, the ones that we could go back to. Our districts were not one of the districts that were giving large lump sums back, but I wanted to go ahead and look at it. They have given a reallocation amount for Northwood that is to be used by this next September, okay? Not this one coming up, the following September. And the amount that they had reallocated to Northwood was $51,775.98. So you'll have about one school year to get those funds used. They gave a lot of guidance in what to do. Some districts did not get as large of a return, so the guidance they gave were looking at one-time purchases such as curriculum or testing supplies, something that the district's not going to need to maintain because this is a one-time reallocation. You're not going to get this type of amount again. So I met with Mrs. Young, Mr. Alford, and Mrs. Brewer to really discuss what some of the needs may be. And while we looked at it, we looked at one of the areas of concern is the middle school population and some of the behavior, and how to get that to be more supported and to support the students' behavior and the needs, those challenging needs, as really looking at behavior as well as the SEL, as we had talked about, some of that social emotional learning. So what we discussed was looking out to some of the agencies around us that specialize in these types of setups, and what we'd be looking at is looking at setting up a student support room, a student behavior support room, and having that covered so that not all behavior comes straight to the office. Some of this is really a tier 2 behavior or tier 3 behavior to where they're going to work with students, try to find out what is causing it, work on a plan to get them reintegrated back in class quicker. So it's above a take a break room, but it's not quite going to an office and having the office and your administration continually working with them on a regular basis. It's really looking at someone with some expertise. What we'd be looking at doing is taking that.
She has expertise.
Some additional expertise.
Thank you.
We've already talked about this. Correct? Yes. This is, I'm not shorting Mrs. Young or Mr. Alford. This was actually, the question was, what would you best want to use? And I will give you exactly what Mrs. Young said. The school board and the town gives us everything we've ever asked for and everything we need. If we have a one-time, and that's exactly what Ms. Young said, if we have a one-time look at of what we could really do to increase and benefit our students the most, this is what we'd be looking at. So with that, there'd be an initial cost of setting up the room, getting some training, getting PD, and then really figuring out how the logistics of it. Now that would cover the one-time cost. So what I also want to talk to you about is, this isn't confirmed. I can't confirm the exact amount. However, the state, in doing this, of reallocating, they also decided to recalculate what has been distributed over the course of the years. And they did some recalculations, and based on their recalculations, as it sits, it's in writing in an email, but it's not truly in writing in the allocations. Northwood's slated to receive an additional $53,669.62, that's an approximate, the following year and ongoing. So that will take your current allocation of right around 157 up to an ongoing of around, we're going to say $214,000 yearly. Okay? Now that number is always going to go down. It has always gone down, but they're recalculating it.
So this is part of the adequacy grant?
Nope, this is just your IDA, just IDA. So looking at this, you're going to have more money than what you had traditionally had in your IDA allocations by a large portion. And what we talked about in utilizing those funds the best way is the reallocation amount, I'm going to use this round number of 51,000, would be to set up the program, to provide initial training, and to look at what other structures we may need to use. That additional $53,000, again, a round number, what we would like to do is look at the potential of hiring someone to, I should say, doing a PSA with that company to have them provide a staff member to run that room to start, to really build the capacity and train our paraprofessionals, so that it might not need to be something that they're doing on a regular basis all the time for years to come, but to really get that set up to start and really give it a great beneficial. Kind of like the way we've structured NEC, where they've come in and they've given us the expertise so that we could have our students working with them. It's the same thing that we'd like to do with this, with that ongoing funds, because it's much more than we've had in the past. And it's something that we feel that the team felt that would be really beneficial. And what we'd be looking at is creating it as a middle school model.
If this were all to be set up, would that be only accessible for special education students, or?
So the way that would work is we would target special education students first, but what we would also do is we would keep data, raw data on students who are utilizing that room, and be able to provide that back to the state in such a way that says, based on these interventions, we were able to keep them from becoming identified, and we're allowed to do that.
Yeah, I can explain that a little bit too.
I think, okay, well, if you'd like,
So
sure.
15% of your allocation, your total allocation, can be used for coordinated early intervening services, CEIS.
Okay.
Now, there's a data requirement for CEIS, so we need to be careful about what we frame, so we're not getting overwhelmed with providing the data. But you can use 15% of your total allocation, so let's say $30,000 is a round number off the top of my head, to service at-risk general education students. And you keep the data. So the reason that they have to keep the data is then they can analyze what you did in a research model, see if it worked, and then carry it forward to other places if it's an effective
Okay.
strategy. With the, if I can just continue on, do you mind? I'm glad that Mr. Byrne looked back at the previous allocations, because your previous director really tried to spend that money down. And I think last year, out of that, whatever amount of the state, we returned $440. So we've always been really good about managing your funds. But with the disparity that's going to be created, we're probably going to have to unconsolidate a portion of your grant and have it just for Northwood, because now you've gone way over the, what, it used to be, there used to be a relative amount of parity between the three districts, and now we're going to have to take a
So
look
the other
at
districts aren't in the same situation?
I think I'm going to save that information for the other districts at their meetings.
That's fine.
Go ahead.
One thing that I did speak with too, I did ask about that because of managing so many grants. We talked about this, we've talked about it a couple times. Because as it is right now, your reallocations are separate grants. So currently, right now, I have 4 different open grants plus the next, well,
Right.
I have 4 plus the 3, so now I'm looking at closer to 7 or 8 that is ongoing. So what I would like to do, and I want to bring this to the joint board and have them make that decision, is there is the potential to keep them consolidated, but what I would do in every activity, just so it's one, is just list it out as I go. Right in it, so like this 23% goes to this one, this, just like I did in that overall sheet for you, for the joint board just recently, I would do that same type of thing, and the sole reason for doing that is, as Mr. Rooney had said, is so that we can maximize your funds, because the more grants you have going on, the more indirect costs you have, and you can't rationalize those until it's almost done. So, so there's more room for error. The closer knit we can keep, the less grants open, the easier it is to manage, not just for me, but also for our grant manager at the SAU. It becomes very, very hard, especially if we went to purchase, and I'm going to use a true example, and this is what's got a lot of schools in trouble for returning. We go to purchase something from Amazon. We put it in there. We get it approved. When we go to purchase it, it's $200 cheaper than what we put in. And by the time we catch those changes from billing and everything else, now we've had that $200 going back that we could have tried to, but the turnaround rate is really long. By the time I find out, write it in, put it up to the state, it takes them 2 to 3 weeks to approve it, get it back to me, and also the indirect cost, you start losing lots of chunks of time, and I can't purchase it until they've approved it. I can put it in, I can kind of get it on hold, I can get an idea for it, but I can't actually make it happen. So that's one of the concerns. But overall, yes, you can use it for other students, and that was one of the goals that we were really looking at. We don't have any fixed numbers yet, as Ms. Young and I we're working pretty closely with it, and she's been in contact with 2 different companies that we work together to discuss, and I had transferred them over to Mrs. Young solely because she knows better what the school needs than me from the SAU. While we work together closely, I still want her to be that point person for the direct school need, the building needs.
Do you have any sense of when you'll get more than just an email in writing a definite allocation, a date?
No later than July. Well, it was supposed to be no later than July 1st. Last year, it was a little longer. We got it after July.
No, we got it in, here's the challenge. They have to get us so you have summer benefits that you pay out of your IDEA grant. So the state has to get us those allocations before July 1st, because you've got like insurance benefits and things like that come out of those grant-funded positions. So I think last year they got it to us on June 25th.
Yeah, it was pretty late.
Which was a little rough, because you've got to write and get those activities and submit that grant, not the whole grant, but your summer piece. So I'm anticipating that it's going to be right around the end of the year that we get our allocations, and Mr. Byrne's going to have to go in and process things rather quickly.
Okay.
Or else it creates a liability for the districts.
Sure.
Yeah. It used to come out in May.
So to summarize, we're likely receiving more allocations than we have in the past. One of them is a one-time, has to be spent by September of 2020. 21, is that what you said? 2020,
20.
2020. And you have a plan for a behavior resource room and a staff program, I should say. If we were all on board, what would be our timeline for actually getting it up and running at the Northwood School?
The hope would be to have that up and running at the start of this school year, to get the training in place over the summer.
What other ideas did you consider? for
Yeah.
using this?
I gotta be honest, when we looked at the curriculum needs, you guys are really rocking your state testing. You guys are moving up. You guys are doing from the preliminary.
Lord, that was my surprise.
You're stealing your
Stealing your thunder, sorry. So, yeah, sorry. So we looked at it, and that was the only thing that truly stood out as a need at this part. I mean, if you would like us to go and look at more, we could, but
No,
this
I'm
is
just
really what we,
curious,
this is really what
I
we
think
felt.
you have a fair amount of data that says, in those grades, this is the issue.
I think-
And it's not consistently across all the grades, that's not every kid in the grade. I don't want anybody to think that we have a horribly misbehaving middle school, because I don't believe that we do. I've seen significant improvements, but those improvements that have been implemented by Mr. Alford and Ms. Young are primarily tier one behavior, universal supports.
Yep.
Right? And so now we're looking at tier two, tier three, what do we do for that 5 to 10 to 15% of kids who don't respond to those universal supports?
Yeah, and my personal experience, tier two, students that in that middle group, that they can really make a big difference if we get them engaged appropriately.
Right, right.
That's correct, and that's what we discussed, and Ms. Young and I talked, and she's gonna work with whatever group comes in to really make it a very stringent way to get into that room. It's not just gonna be, okay, Susie is doing this right now, so we're gonna send them down. That's not the way it's gonna work, and that's gonna have that structure there to give how it's gonna look, and really make that work. Did you have anything you wanted to add on it? Because I did speak quite a bit about it, but I know that we work together.
I think the only thing I didn't hear you talk about was when the staff person does not have kids in the room at that time, there's an opportunity for him or her to be out and about in classrooms, in the cafeteria, on the playground, doing a lot of the preventative, proactive stuff, not just the reactive, responsive stuff.
Thank you. And the reason we wanted to start with the middle school model isn't because that's where we're not saying that, as you said, it's just the middle school, but you have to start in one area and really look at, you also don't want, say it's an 8th grader in there, or the 7th and 8th grader using it and needing it more often, based on student need at this time, you're not gonna want a kindergartner or a 1st grader in with that. So you have to kind of figure out where that model is to start and what to do.
I imagine having a separate room for some of these tier 2 behaviors would cause less disruption in the
That's correct.
primary
Yeah.
classrooms
Yeah.
as well, right?
I mean, you're walking a fine, I'll share my philosophy, you're walking a fine line. And you've got to be very thoughtful and strategic about how kids access that room. You definitely want to help kids and return them to the setting. And you need to make sure that, a student isn't spending too much time isolated from their peers, because we know there's some ramifications to that other than the learning environment. So it's really a situation of balance and procedure and structure to make it effective and keep kids learning.
That was going to be my one last question, actually, is if, assuming we decide to go ahead with this model, would we be able to would we be privy to the guidelines for referral for students, or the procedures when students would be accessing, or ahead of time as a school board?
Yes, I'd also ask whatever agency is going to be doing it to come in and do a presentation
Okay.
for you to explain their structure.
Thank you. Great.
What action items would you need from us?
Because it's not raised by local funds, I just want to run it by you and get you guys on board, but I don't need a vote to spend because it's out of grants. Okay, but I wouldn't, this is such a big thing, I
Right.
wouldn't do this without working with you and making sure you're on board. but I don't necessarily need a vote to spend the funds. I just want everybody on board, understanding what we want to do with it and being engaged in the process.
Okay.
From what I've heard, I'm on board at least. I don't know if you guys are.
I agree.
Share that.
Thank you.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a great thing, actually.
Thank you. And that's it, unless you have any questions for me. I have more to share with you later, but that's in.
So we'll just get a status update at our next
Yeah.
meeting or
Yes,
next time
that's
you're here.
correct.
and
Once
find out where
once
we
I
are.
get the, yes.
I would think that for the next 6 months or more, that Nate would make this a section of his report
Yeah.
to you
Yes.
monthly, just to give you a progress update and what's going on and the challenges that he sees.
Yeah,
and we're working through.
especially confirmations of the grant amounts and stuff. Would be
Yeah.
good to know.
Yes.
You're gonna know, as soon as that comes out, we're gonna put that in the report,
Yeah.
but they'll come soon.
Yes, they
We
will.
hope.
We hope, right. I hope.
We don't want Nate up 24 hours before July 1st. Like, writing a grant, no. But
Great. Do you have anything else for us?
Not at this point.
Okay. Any further questions for our student services? All right. We're ready to move on to the principal's report then.
Good evening. Our report begins on page 50. Please excuse Mr. Alford tonight. He is in DC with the 8th graders, who had a little bit of excitement today, but are all fine. Their bus was hit by a car, but everybody is fine.
Everybody on the bus at least.
The bus is a little scratched. I saw a picture, but functional.
But driving, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
So for a hiring update, 8 days ago when I wrote this report, we were still interviewing for first grade. You'll have a personnel report tonight that eliminates that still being an open position. So our big focus right now continues to be curriculum director and tech director. We've held a couple interviews for curriculum director, and we'll have 4 more at least next week. And then we're currently in the process of forming the tech director interview committee and screening applications. Preliminary state testing results, I have them for you. Keep in mind, they could change a little bit. The testing window doesn't actually close until tomorrow, and then it may take a couple weeks to sort of recalibrate everything, but I don't think they'll change too much. But I just want to emphasize they are preliminary. I don't have graphs. Sorry, Keith. I don't have detailed analysis. I don't have an action plan. What I do have is
that's what he's gonna ask for.
We'll see what we got first.
what I do have is some really promising news. So I'll pass that around.
Thanks. Sorry about that too, by the way.
Oh, that's all right.
Already read it.
Thank you.
And I apologize to staff. I finished this at about 6:25 tonight, so I haven't had a chance to share it with you guys yet, but you'll get it tomorrow.
Copies.
So I organized the data in 2 ways. Just as a reminder, grades 3 through 8 all take English language arts and mathematics, and then science is administered only in grades 5 and 8. So the left-hand side of the page is, and we've only done this particular test for 2 years. This was our second administration of it, so that's why you only have 2 years of historical data. So the left side of the page is grade level, so static grade level. So for grade 3, for example, though in 17-18, those are now this year's 4th graders, and then grade 3 and 18-19 are currently in grade 3. So the first number,
So do you want to move diagonally if we're comparing?
right, but then I also did that for you on the right
okay.
side in the
Awesome.
cohort data. So the first number in the column is how our kids did, and the number in parentheses is how the state did. And the state's number is the one that is likely to change a little bit. So just a couple observations. In 17-18, we were below the state in English language arts in all grade levels except for 1. In 18-19, we are above the state in all grade levels except for 2. In math, in 17-18, we were below the state in half of our grade levels. And in 18-19, we are below the state in only 1 grade level. Science is pretty consistent across the 2 years. I think that's huge. I really do. Like, I just want to take a minute to celebrate that.
That's great.
Yeah. And then if you look on the right side, so these are the cohorts. So the class of 2023 is our current grade 4 students. So in 17-18, it shows how they performed as 3rd graders and how they're performing currently in 4th grade. Our current 4th graders made significant gains in ELA and math. Our current fifth graders made significant gains in ELA. Our current sixth graders made significant gains in ELA and math. And then our current seventh and eighth graders kind of held steady, a little dip here and there. So there are some areas where I want to do a little bit more data analysis and figure out what's going on, because I didn't get the results that I wanted everywhere. But overall, this looks really good. And I really want to commend our staff. They worked hard to get the kids ready, to get the kids motivated, and to support and accommodate them. So this is huge.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
congratulations.
Thanks for the report and the results.
And then later in the summer, you'll get graphs
All right.
and a detailed analysis
Be
and
waiting
an
with
action
bated
plan.
You can make them too.
I tend to.
Or we can send him the spreadsheet and he can.
Yeah, thank you. I do appreciate that. Awesome.
Okay, so then moving on, our artist in residence was here a couple weeks ago. Merrick Bennett worked with all grade levels, which was pretty cool, but particularly worked with fourth grade, and they created 8-page comic books. He's also working to create sort of a commemorative piece that outlines the process that they went through that will actually be displayed in the school, since the comic books themselves do not lend themselves to easily being displayed, although there are copies or will be copies in the library that kids can read. There has been a residual effect from this. Kids are still working on comic books. Kids are still talking about their experience with Merrick Bennett. This is the third artist in residence experience I've been part of here, and this is the first time that we've had kids still actively talking about an experience 2 weeks later. So I think that's a pretty good sign. And thank you to Mrs. Legassi for organizing his visit. It's a process that starts in October, and there's lots of back and forth and lots of research and planning and organization that goes into that, so I appreciate that effort from her. We are in the process of developing a master schedule for the next school year. A scheduling committee met, put a draft together, and that's currently been sent out to staff for their feedback, and then next week the scheduling committee will get back together, finalize things, and then I'll be ready to share that with you. We had a couple curriculum nights last week. They were very well attended. People seemed really enthusiastic and energized about showing off their work, seeing their kids' work, visiting classrooms, kind of reflecting on the learning over the course of the year, and I want to give a shout out to teachers for that as well. We had a lot of high-quality reflection happening. Students documented their learning over the course of the year. Did they meet their goals? What led to meeting their goals? What didn't? In a fourth grade classroom, for example, they were talking about how collaboration supported the meeting of their goals. And so it was just really nice to see teachers and kids being very intentional about thinking about what worked, what didn't, reflecting on this year and starting to think about the next. We had a professional development day on May 24th. We spent some time working on creating groupings and class placements for next school year, and then also engaged in some self-directed professional development. We spent some time working on NEASC. Teachers spent some time working on curriculum documents and revising them as we shift from quarters to trimesters. And then also, as you know, curriculum, this was our first year with the ELA and math curriculum documents, doing some reflecting on how that worked, what tweaks need to be made moving forward. We also spent some time aligning social studies curriculum topics. So it was a busy day. The Anstrad Award we can talk about in non-public. And then there is an offer of a donation to the class of 2020, our current 7th graders. Mr. Ludwig has been co-facilitating the yearbook club this year and would like to donate his $500 stipend to the class of 2020 for one or more students to use towards their class trip. So I am looking for board approval to accept that donation. And then I have just a few dates of note. 8th grade is currently in DC. They are due back around 9 o'clock tomorrow night. I hear they're tired, so I think they'll be happy to have a day on the bus to sleep a little bit tomorrow. Next week we have the, it says 4th grade on here, but it's actually much more than 4th grade, performance and art show next week. And then that's what day of the week? That's Wednesday. And then Thursday we have field day. Graduation is June 20th, and the last day for kids is June 21st. One thing that I'm noticing is missing on here is sports awards are June 11th, and I left that off. I apologize. Sports awards, June 11th at 6.
Any questions, comments?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the donation of $500, the stipend for co-facilitating the yearbook club from Mr. Ludwig.
Second?
Any discussion on that?
To say thank you to
Yeah,
Mr.
thank you,
Ludwig.
yeah.
Thank you.
That's great.
Huge.
Send him a note or something. Say thanks. That'd be from us. I can sign it. Very nice of him. All in favor? Motion carries 4-0. Mr. Winslow, would this be a good time, you think, to discuss the playground idea that we were talking about
Sure.
earlier? So, Mr. Winslow and I, in the past, we've had, and this year, we canceled taking our school board payment, and so that we could roll it back into other projects in the school. And we were talking about this today, and we were wondering if, I don't think we've used any of that money. I remember in past years, we've used it for field trips or things like that. I don't think we did that this year, that I remember. So we have between us approximately $4,000, I think, in our school board salary line that's still available. And we were talking about seeing if we could do something with the upper playground with that kind of money. I know it's not probably enough money to do anything significant with, like buying equipment or something like that, but perhaps cleaning up the ground, getting new bedding with maybe some things around it.
Chips.
Yeah, wood chips and something to contain the chips. And it's very, very last minute, and I apologize for that because we haven't figured this out. But I guess we were wondering if we could look into using that money for that, if that would make sense. Or if you have other ideas too for what.
Mr. Winslow and I have been in conversation about his portion of that, and I've put it out to teachers for some suggestions. The challenge at this point is the timing.
Right.
So I think what initially comes to mind is if you were to accept the salary and then donate it after July 1st, that would give us more time to use it during the 1920 school year, rather than feeling rushed
Sure.
to try to spend it now. That means you do have to,
Pay taxes on it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Right,
But-
but you also get the deduction for the donation.
Okay.
So that gives us a little breathing room to
portion of it,
figure
right.
out, because it's a great problem to have, and I'll go back
Right.
to what Nate said earlier. We really have been able to purchase the things that we've asked for, so it's a great problem to have extra money to spend, but I want to be very intentional and thoughtful about how we spend it.
Okay. Yeah, if you have other ideas, that if there's a way we can do it with spending this money this year, I'd be interested in hearing that, because I'd much rather do that than get, 25% taken off in taxes and then give it back, right?
Yeah, so one thing that would be very helpful is if you two put in writing sort of the parameters of how you would like to see the money spent. I can then share that out with staff so that they have an understanding of the types of activities or materials that you're hoping for.
Sure.
And I can talk to Mr. O'Sullivan about if there's any unique structure we can use for the donation.
Right.
I'll go over that with him tomorrow.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
And if we do decide to use it, just transfer it between lines, whatever, the board would need to approve that, because this is
Correct. You'd have to do that.
This is district money. I mean, it's just, it's not
Wait.
my money and his money
Right.
at this point.
Right.
If we get paid, it will be, but.
So we can do that at your next, we would have to do that at your next meeting.
Yeah.
This is late.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're already starting to close, but,
Yeah. I forgot all about it recently, so.
well,
Well, and if there is
you're
an
lucky
option
Mr.
to
O'Sullivan
do
isn't
it,
here, he'd remind you.
if there is an option to do it for next year's fiscal year or whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna check
Be
that.
interested in.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah, I think last time you just had to write a letter to the business
Okay.
administrator telling them how you want to do
So
that.
I'll talk with him tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Can I just ask you for an update on the plans for the second grade classroom?
I think we want to talk about that in non-public tonight.
Is that non-public?
It is.
Okay. All right. I will wait for that then. Any other questions, comments, concerns? No. All right. Great, thank you very much, Jen. All right, so we have graduation. All right, next up we have, looks like 4 policies, starting on page 52. These are all policies that we have seen before. And so this is the second reading of them, and they're up for adoption at this point.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the 4 policies: DAF, Administration of Federal Grants; DI, Fiscal Accounting and Reporting; DID, Fixed Assets; DJC, Petty Cash.
I'll second that. Any discussion, comments, questions, modifications? Are we up to date with all of the nasty mail we get from the government about these, once these are done?
You're
There's a
ruining my
motion.
segue into my report. Yes.
Okay. Just checking. So there's no
I'm
other.
gonna go over it in a minute.
Okay.
So, when we get to.
No other discussion? Okay, all in favor of adopting these policies as presented in our packet? Motion carries 4-0, the policies are adopted. Any other policy, while we're talking policies, policy committee updates or anything?
We met tonight, we have 5 policies we'll be bringing back to you. Some are reaffirmations, some are new policies, and some are updates.
Okay.
And the policy that you proposed is one of them that we've modified. Social events.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I've totally forgot about that.
So we've done some changes to that to
Okay,
make it
yeah,
compliant.
sure.
But we think we got it.
Great.
So,
Okay, so we'll move on to.
all right, so I'm going to jump around a little bit because it's a busy time of year, so stuff happens in between agendas, and I want to give you some updates. The first is, Mrs. Dole, can you make sure it's recorded in the minutes that I'm doing a consultation on the grant assurances with the board? So, your grant assurances with the adoption of those policies are ready for signature. I have signed my section. I need Mr. McGuigan to initial each page and then sign the back page, and then we are good to go.
Okay.
I've got those there for him, so I've met my consultation with the board. Now I'm going to float into the audit. So at the same time, we got selected for a grant audit, and I didn't know this when I started this process. If you remember, I said I'm not signing these assurances until these policies are in place. I don't feel comfortable, and I don't feel comfortable consulting to the board chair that he signed those assurances without those policies in place. That did come up in your 17-18 grant audit, which is enclosed. The corrective action was met about 35 seconds ago when you confirmed those policies. So we will have Mr. O'Sullivan file that corrective action in the state, and that will close out your federal compliance, and your assurances will be filed with the state, and you'll be good to go.
Slick.
So that was a slick, yeah, that worked out okay. A couple other things I want to follow up on, the teamwork between Mr. Byrne and Ms. Young, and other conversations that are sort of an offshoot from that, from my level. When I met with Demonstrated Success, which is an organization that actually was just awarded the state contract for some data coaching. I was meeting with them about another district. Of course, we were so proud of our Northwood testing data that I shared that with Mr. Schwartz, and he has offered a one-day drill down to for the data for the Northwood staff to see if they can correct that area. So whether they do it on their own or take advantage of that, that's an offer that's out there for them to take advantage of. The other thing is there was a Title II, a professional development reallocation offered. There was unused money and it was offered across the state on a competitive basis. Mr. Wolf, I had an idea, and I gave it to Mr. Wolf, and he took that idea and wrote it into a grant, and you were awarded a $30,000 grant across the SAU, a consortium grant for the SAU, for a 3-day competency-based education workshop down in SAU 16. I created a registration form and a letter to the staff. I'm happy to report that all 24 slots are filled across the SAU, 11 of them in Northwood. So they'll be provided breakfast and lunch and $30 an hour to participate in this 3-day workshop and mileage. And the offshoot for that, which is sort of interesting, is there's equitable service money for private schools, being Co-Brown being one of them. So my $30,000 application turned into a $75,000 award. So Co-Brown has a little problem right now trying to figure out how to spend that money, and we're trying to help them with that. That's good news. I don't know if you saw the news today, but we have a school funding update in the state. Not a solution, but an update for you. The court did hear the case that was filed by 4 districts in the western and southwest part of the state. And the judge did find that the current way to fund an adequate education is unconstitutional. There was no injunctive relief issued. However, in the opinion, it was squarely put on the governor and the legislature to take care of this. We'll see if the governor appeals that to a higher court. Interestingly enough, the number that the judge came up with is exactly the number that one of the bills in the legislature came up with. So we're watching that closely for you. We'll update you as more information becomes available. But it looks like there's at least a first step in a process that may offer some relief in that way.
I would be interested in knowing if there's any way we could help out with that as well. But
I will get in touch with
I mean, I don't know if the
the
board wants to
attorney.
do that, but I would be interested, at least personally, see what the.
If the board gives me the nod, I'll try to get in touch with their legal services, and I mean, there'll be a cost. but
Sure.
I will do that. And if we can't get involved at that level, we'll at least get involved in the advocacy.
Right.
And then the next thing I have for you is a personnel report that I passed out. It should be right in front of you, I hope. I'm going to nominate Carrie Quigley as your first grade teacher. Step 3 for a salary of $42,448.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the nomination of Carrie Quigley for first grade teacher, master's degree.
Second?
Discussion? Questions? So, I mean, she's not replacing Ms. King.
Well, she is
level,
technically,
right?
it's the shift,
The
so
shift level.
3 to 6, 1 to, I'll let you do it.
Yes, so we had 5 teachers leave and we hired 5 teachers. She's not replacing her in terms of teaching that grade level, but she's replacing her in terms of that teaching position.
Right, okay.
Yes, the 3rd grade teacher is moving to 6th grade, and then we created the 1st grade position, so.
So that'll be
There's 3
2
first grade.
6th grades?
There'll be 3 6th grades, 2 3rd grades, 3
Oh, I
first
see.
grades,
Gotcha.
and a partridge.
So it's shifting. It's a-
Keep that in.
It's a circular fire.
I'm just curious, is it okay if I ask where the Seoul Elementary School is?
Derry.
In Derry?
Salem.
Salem,
Salem.
sorry, Blue Devil.
You can ask.
I apologize.
You can get an accurate answer. You can ask.
I had that whole Blue Devil conversation with her today, I should have remembered that.
Okay,
So, yes,
cool, thank you.
that's hers too.
All in favor of electing Carrie Quigley, first grade teacher? Motion carries 4-0.
That's it for me.
All we got? Is the only thing in the personnel
That's the only
report.
personnel
Yeah,
report. Okay.
for now at least. Yeah.
That's it for the evening.
That's it, okay. I didn't know what this was. Oh, yeah, that was just. So whatever. Are there any additional questions or issues that we'd like to ask the superintendent while we have his attention? Good. Okay, as we don't have any new business listed on our agenda, we'll move on to the old business. First thing on that is our goals/strategic plan. And I think somebody made printouts and brought them for everybody. Mr. Moore, thanks.
I
Thank
did
you
that.
very much for that.
That
So these were the goals that we came up with at our last our working session last week. Everybody got a chance to correct any errors or rewording and
I
stuff?
made a few minor adjustments,
Okay.
nothing that would affect the content, just
Okay.
some
Same
wording.
here. I did a couple very minor,
Spelling things or?
just wording,
Yeah.
just,
So we haven't heard any feedback from administration about these goals, so I would like to hear that.
Well, I read through your goals.
Yep.
And they look good. I wonder about measures a little bit. But other than that, I think it would probably be wise to have me, if the board decides about measurement, is that I work with Ms. Young and develop a measurement for your goals. So I'd be happy to do that. I didn't want to just start doing that without your permission. But
Yeah, I
Mr.
think that'd
McGuigan
be-
gave me access to the goals that night. I saw it when I don't know what I was doing, just like, thanks.
Get ready for bed.
Something like that. So I'd be willing over the summer, I mean, I'm not gonna have much time right now, to meet with Ms. Young and try to look at some data and some measurements, so you feel good and.
That'd be great.
and-
So,
and
so
can
if we
see-
approve these goals tonight, just so that we can say we're done.
Yep.
And only 2 months late, then we can start doing measurements. The other thing I was considering, or had an idea about, I wanted to run by you guys, is maybe what we could do is take one of these sub-goals and just throw it on our agenda and switch it up. We'll rotate through them and just as a discussion point, so that we don't forget about it, right? Because I could totally see us doing these goals and then not looking at them again until the end of the year and we're going to evaluate ourselves on them. So if we put them on there as a, under new business, and we could start at the beginning or do randomly or whatever and just put one on there and say discussion about goal, A1, and put them in there. And if we have nothing to talk about, we have nothing to talk about. If we do, that's just great. It'll be something on our
I
mind.
think that would be good.
Want to do that?
Yeah, I'd like to, I don't know if that should replace our conversation of the strategic plan, but I would
Right.
note that we try to align these goals to the strategic
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah. Yep.
Would you mind if I changed your sub-As to 1s, 2s,
Yes,
3s?
I tried to do that. I was using Google Docs. It wouldn't let me, so.
Okay.
Yes. I would prefer that. So. Okay, so,
Can I say one more
yeah.
thing? I think what I'd like to see from our board with these goals is perhaps some subcommittee work in, I know Mr. Wells had a particular interest in this, the goal B or goal 2, however that's going to be
Yep.
renamed.
Yep.
I have a particular interest in goal A, and I'd like to potentially not assign these to people, but I'd like us to kind of just express where we'd like to work on these.
I mean, we can certainly assign them to committees, too. I mean, I think that's a reasonable thing to do. And yeah, another thing we do is if we go through one by one and have them on our agenda, that's, we won't overload ourselves for each meeting, but then we'd always have a spot and be like, okay, when I have it on there, it's not like we're gonna solve it right then. It's just like, all right, where are we with this? Where are we going? What's the next steps,
Yeah. I was even thinking, to your point, Keith, about reviewing, you've got 6 subcategories here. If you had the first 3 on the first meeting of the month and the second 3 on the second meeting of the month, then you're addressing them throughout the month, every month. So that they're never in the fourth,
Yeah, I was thinking of smaller chunks than that.
Smaller chunks
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna do just like one, one of these each,
Okay.
so that, and just have it on a standing item on our agenda that we would, go through each one. But I'm open to other ideas. That's just what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But in any case, we should vote to approve these goals first, and it sounds like we're kind of on board with them for now. So I will make a motion that we approve the Northwood School Board goals for the 2019-2020 year.
Second?
Any further discussion on these? Thank you guys for meeting with us to solve these on enough time. Always hard to do. And getting it done so quickly, in fact. All in favor of these goals? Yes, all right. Goals are approved, 4-0. Great. So, so do you guys want to just put one on? How do you want to do it for agendas?
I feel, are we talking on each agenda, so every 2 weeks?
That's just what I was thinking, yeah, at least one, what I was thinking was one of these things every 2 weeks for discussion. One of the action items or whatever, one of the subheadings.
Do you have some input, Mr. Brady?
Do you mind if I make a recommendation?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think it would be a good idea to start this in July.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
And so what I'll do for your
so depending on what we do, but
Right.
Are we meeting in July?
we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we're gonna take care of that. For your, well, whenever your first meeting is.
Right.
We can figure it out when we get there.
Yeah.
I'm just gone until,
I think
I'll be back in the district.
When are you gonna be out?
I'm out the 24th.
6/24?
Yeah. To the 5th, so really the 8th, for Monday.
Okay.
So I'll be back that Monday, and that'll give us time to,
Yep.
well, might not, but.
No, I think, yeah.
And our next meeting is gonna be graduation night. so
We're,
we probably wanna keep that
we gotta
pretty
talk
tight.
about all this, I think, because I was just looking
Yeah.
at our schedule, and our next two meetings are on graduation night and July 4th. So I'm guessing we might want to shift by a couple of weeks, and then we wouldn't have to worry about doing graduation on top of itself and all that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I have to take off
Yep.
Okay.
to relieve my sitter.
What's that?
I have to relieve my sitter.
Oh, okay, sorry. So
She's young.
next up was blizzard bags. Did you want to stay for that? Did you want to take off? We'll just
I can be
delay
real
it for
quick.
later.
Oh, you're gonna talk about it. Okay, sure.
Sorry.
I'll text her.
I'll be real quick,
Okay.
and then I'll email you what I said as well, so you don't have to worry about keeping all the numbers. So I was able to reach out to Barnstead as requested, and I spoke with Mr. Rice over there, he's the principal. He informed me that they started with the paper version about 6 years ago. Since then, internet has increased the access. Parents, they're in the high 80s for online availability. They sent out a survey recently to ask how everybody felt. They sent it out for 500 students. 200 surveys were returned. Keep in mind, some of these were multiple students in one family. So he felt as though that was a high return rate, as so do I. 90% approval for the process. The 10% that didn't like what was going on, some of the major ones that came up over and over was it was hard to complete the work if you had more than one student in your home at one time. That was a difficulty. The other part was the parents had shared that regardless of whether there's a snow day, they still had to go to work, and it was again hard to get the work done with their students. Those were the only two consistent gripes, but overall, it was well received. What they do is they notify parents before the event, during the event, and after the blizzard bag event to make sure that they're well informed that this indeed was a blizzard bag event. A packet may be sent home 2 to 3 days before an event if it's a large event coming and they have insight, but it doesn't necessarily mean it will be, but they might send an updated packet home. Currently, what they have is about a 92 to 93% participation rate with that. They provide planning time for their teachers to create these thematic units. They're standalone activities. So what they want them to do is they are a part of what they're doing on a regular basis, but they're standalone. So if they don't get done, they can use them another time. But if they are done, it enhances the current curriculum that they're already working on. They offer online resources to the students for all grades, which allow the teachers to track progress of the day if the students are able to utilize online. Teachers send emails to students, and students send them back on a daily basis during that time. Students get choice in their assignments, so there are multiple assignments given on the day, and they get to choose which ones they're going to complete. And then the last part of this is teachers are required to be available during the school hours. Since it is a school day and they're not required to make it up, they're required to be available. Now, that doesn't mean instantaneously available, but they are required to be available. So most of the time, they're either answering phone calls if they need it, or if they want to do it that way, some of them are using digital online platform to be able to be available to answer questions. And then I also spoke with Rochester. And at this point, they've only had one blizzard bag day. It's just too soon to provide any data on what's going on. They haven't surveyed parents because they've only done one, and it's their first year. So I was able to follow up on that.
That's helpful.
Was there staff? Did we ever ask the staff?
We did, and they asked a lot of questions right back at you.
Okay, good. So, all right, we'll have to continue this, I think, some other time if you have to be going. Before you do leave, though, if we have to reschedule a couple meetings, do you know of anything that's going to be problematic for you? Like if we shift it by a week or next couple meetings or something?
No, I have no life, so
Okay,
go
great.
for it.
Perfect. That's what I like to hear. All right.
All right.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Good night. Sorry for keeping you.
No, that's fine.
Thank you, sorry.
Oh, thanks for that info. Thank you.
You wanna do something?
Yeah, I apologize.
With what?
I have another update.
All right, go for it.
So I apologize, because this just happened too. So if you remember, I filed a modified grant application for school security. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but it was awarded. So Ms. Young and I are working on spending 50, 60
You
something.
told me 62.
62. You'll have to fund 12 of that eventually, next year somehow. But then the rest you'll get back from the state.
Then you work with the lawyers to make sure we're not running afoul of.
Already did that.
Okay, good. That's what I'm concerned.
Right, because we're gonna take the 12 out of one of your reserve accounts, which have already been raised and appropriated.
Okay.
When we get there, we'll let you know.
Okay.
All right. Okay. All set?
I'm good.
So blizzard bags, do we want to talk any more about that right now, or we just want to continue that later?
Continue later. It's
Yeah.
good information, though.
Yep, all right, thanks. Parking lot items, that's the newsletter, you guys. I like the quarterly plan.
Yeah, we're gonna work on the
continue with that.
quarterly plan. Like I said, we're trying to increase the Facebook presence, trying to
Yeah,
get the
that's-
meetings
that's
out
been looking
there,
good,
and
too.
trying to respond accordingly. So we'll continue to do that.
Cool. Safety, we'll probably discuss, maybe even tonight, later.
Sure.
Strategic plan goals, the first monthly meeting, we did our
Which you
goals,
did,
I think that's
yeah.
good enough,
Okay.
so, for now. Blizzard bags we're talking about, and the sign, we got, any new information on the sign?
I turned it over to facilities. I haven't
Okay,
heard
so we'll wait to
anything.
hear from
But I
them.
am gonna change Blizzard bag to ongoing at this point.
Yep, that's probably a good idea.
All right.
Anything we want to discuss with these, or anything you want to add to the parking lot at this point? No? We're good, okay. I assume next is our timeline, which it usually is. Check the class size, hiring needs. Oh, okay, so exit interviews. It's too bad Amy left on this, but 2 weeks from now, during graduation, might be a good time for us to open up a window for maybe doing some exit interviews with departing staff
So to be clear, before graduation.
before graduation, because graduation's at 6, right? School is over at 3:30. They're probably gonna be in the area at that point, and it's the, day before the last day of school, so they might be able to have some talk about. So if you guys are available that afternoon, I don't know what time, how early you would be available
The afternoon on the 20th?
on the 20th, yeah. If we could do that, then we could maybe reach out to some of the departing staff and see if we can schedule some time, or I can do that.
We can do that for you.
Okay.
We have Linda do it.
But we need to have board members,
I could be here by 4:30.
4:30.
Yeah.
I could probably be here by 4:30 as well, so. Then we could just, how are you looking that day?
I think I could be here whenever you need me.
Okay,
This afternoon's pretty flexible.
so let's shoot for that then, and we can always change it, but we'll shoot for 4:30 and try to set up slots of 15 minutes, depending on how many people come. I mean, there's what, five people leaving, so.
I think, just to be clear, I think we're particularly interested in the people leaving from the Northwood Elementary School, but last year we did also meet with people leaving from the SAU.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's something we'd like to, offer again.
I certainly wouldn't mind that if we have the time for it. Would you be willing to reach out to those people and see if they'd,
It's only one person.
okay. See if they'd be interested in just talking to us on the way out?
Yep.
All right. So I'm gonna put my calendar,
So we're putting, starting at 4:30.
So 4:30, and then I'll
You'll
work with these guys to schedule.
Okay.
And if Linda can get in touch with me or get in touch with the people, and
Yeah.
if she wants to, if she can just set it all up herself, that'd be
That's
fine.
what I'm gonna work on.
Okay, and just let me know.
Our
Oh, yeah.
graduates will be arriving at 5:30 that night, and we'll need our middle school staff to help wrangle those very excited teenagers.
So
So
we'll hit
if
them
we could,
first.
schedule the middle school
Yep.
first, that
Yep.
would be helpful.
Yep. And if anyone is unavailable at that time, we can do it some other time too. We
Yep.
can it's perfectly fine for us to call a meeting, we just need, what, 24 hours notice, so.
Yep.
If they want to do it on Friday or something like that, I think I'd be available on Friday at least, I don't know about you guys, but,
Well, maybe.
yeah.
Friday's a bit trickier, but
Okay,
Last day of school here.
last day of school, different.
Earlier in the week might be easier, but, you know, well, let's see what we can do with the
okay.
20th. for
Yeah,
now.
well, anyway, yeah, if people can't make that day, just let them know, we're willing to work with them. But we'll start with 4:30 on the 20th. Okay. Coming up in July, in our timeline, discuss school schedule, Kate, with school board. I think that's really only if we're gonna change things. I don't think there's any taste for at this point. Presentation discussion of staff and student and parent handbooks. So that's, handbooks coming up again, but I'm sure you're on top of that.
We'll do that at the second meeting.
Sure, I mean, this is July, I'm just like, this is what
No, we still have to, yeah, we still have to plan.
Yeah, yeah. And review bus routes, publicized routes, so that's later in July probably.
Right.
If not August.
Beginning of August.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else that we should add to the timeline, or are you happy with that? All right. Future agenda items. Maybe we want to change this around first. Maybe I'll skip to our meeting schedule first, and then we'll go to our future agenda items.
Okay.
We are scheduled to have a joint board meeting on Monday, the 10th. I think everything, that's fine. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is 2 weeks from now, the 20th, which is the same day as graduation and the same day as exit interviews. And then the following meeting after that is on July 4th, which is a holiday which people are probably going to be around for. So what I was wondering is maybe instead of trying to meet on the 20th or thereabouts and the 4th or thereabouts, we can maybe push those back 1 week each. So our meeting schedule would be, instead of the 20th, we would meet on the 27th, which is a Thursday. Instead of the 4th, we would meet on the 11th. And then, we could go with the 18th, so we would have, during that month, we just have back-to-back weeks if needed. I don't know how this works for your schedules.
Mr. Byrne can do the 27th.
Okay, because you won't be here that day. Yeah,
I
Correct.
will not be available the 27th.
Okay.
And neither will Mr. Alford. Sorry.
that's fine. I mean, if we have to choose between having a half-hour meeting on the 20th or having a full meeting on a different day when some of you aren't here, as long as you can send stuff through Mr. Burns if he's going to be here, I think we're okay with that, I assume.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point of the year, it should just be it should be like nuts and bolts stuff. It shouldn't be. anything.
Right.
We can
It's
skip a
summer,
principal's
or, yeah, it's
right,
not
right.
a whole lot going on.
Here's your principal's report. School's out.
Right.
Manifest.
Manifest.
And then, so delaying by a week in July.
It's in
The only
the-
thing that's gonna be time-driven here is like signing manifests and stuff. We can do that outside of meetings.
Well, your hand stamps are on the way.
We're still gonna try to sign what we can.
Yeah.
So does that work then, to shift those meetings? We'll repost the 20th, or actually, it probably hasn't been posted yet.
So cancel the 20th.
We'll cancel the 20th and
We're
post
going
on
to call it
the
exit
27th.
interviews.
So,
Post the 27th. Cancel the 4th.
Right.
Post the 11th.
Yep.
And I wouldn't be able to do the 11th.
Okay. Are you okay with that, or? do you
Yeah,
want
I'm
to
just,
try-
I already have.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's,
Does that work?
this happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
I was going to. Yeah.
It'll be quick.
All right, let's plan on that for now. We will have a meeting in between then too, so if something comes up, we can always readjust or call special meetings if we need to, but let's plan on that for now. Okay. Actually, I'm gonna put it in my calendar now so I don't forget, so give me a sec. 20th.
The 20th is Mr. O'Sullivan's meeting.
Yep,
Would you like him there at the 27th if he's available?
if he's available, yeah.
Okay, that's all. I just need to make sure. If he is available, I'll have him here with me.
All
That'd
right.
be great.
That's all I need to know.
Yep. Yeah, and if it's you two here, I think
Yeah.
that should be good coverage. Okay, so now that we do have a full meeting scheduled at least, let's talk about the agenda for that meeting. I wanted to do that first, because I know we'd have just a little bit of time. So, what do we have for What do you have noted for our agenda for
You have to take care of the fresh picks.
27th?
You have to take care of the fresh picks contract. You're going to get your capital reserve fund balances and your financial report. You're going to have to make a decision about your after-school programming.
Or do we need to make a decision, or?
You
we
need
should
to
have
make a
discussion?
decision.
Okay.
You need to make a decision.
Okay. So,
Okay.
In fact, we may want to talk about maybe making that decision right before exit interviews. For time, I'll tell you why, I'll tell you why later.
Okay.
But there is
So-
there is a time issue here.
speaking of
Also
that,
fresh picks, potentially?
Yeah, for, that was
Yeah,
kind of.
yeah, we're getting close.
Yeah.
So you've got some issues you might want to deal with quickly in a special meeting, I don't know.
Special meeting on the 20th.
well, we have to call a meeting on the 20th, just to meet, to do the exit interviews anyway. They'll be non-public, but we need to be
Right.
in the envelope of a meeting, so if there's simple
Right.
approvals that need to be done, at that point, we could do that.
All right, so why don't I post that meeting with 3 agenda items, exit interviews, after-school program, and fresh picks.
Yeah.
Then I'll be in the building anyway for graduation, so you do your exit interviews, I don't need to be there for those, and then somebody just come get me and we'll quickly take care of that business.
Yeah, or if we have an open slot,
And then-
15-minute
Right,
windows or whatever.
right,
Yep.
right, just
Yep.
come find me and we'll do, we'll take care of business.
Okay.
Yep,
And then I'll lighten up your agenda for another time, and,
yep,
So that's gonna be on the 20th.
yes.
yeah, so we're not gonna, so,
The 20th is not being
Cancel.
canceled.
I'm gonna modify the
So we're
20th.
not doing anything regarding the financial report on the 20th?
No,
No,
no.
no.
20th will be exit interviews and
Right,
then
fresh picks.
fresh picks.
and-
Fresh pick, like approvals, basically.
Right.
We're not gonna even have
Okay.
discussion probably
Yeah.
on these things. Not much of it anyway. Okay, so anything else we want on our agenda for the 20th or the 27th at this point? We can work that out. Do you have on the 20, no, you don't want to do that yet? Okay. I don't want to forget to put the goals on
In July.
Yeah,
July.
July.
Do you not-
We'll start in July.
I think that once we settle all these changes, maybe you and I can get together when I get back in July and just sort of refresh our screens and come up with a plan.
Yep, yep, that works for me. Okay. So a reminder, we do have a joint board meeting on the 10th as well. which
And
is
there's been a
Monday.
quorum call email that went out, I don't
Right.
know if people have seen that, so if you can respond to that.
Yep.
The issue is that,
Well, there's education committee meeting is at the same time. I'm
Right.
just gonna skip that.
Joint board
right,
when? Joint board when?
10th, Monday,
Monday.
this Monday. coming up.
Oh,
So, if you can respond to that, so Mrs. Levinson knows.
Yep.
Yeah, I already did.
Okay. Is there any closing public comments? Sorry to keep you all waiting so long. Nothing over here? Nothing good?
It's Mrs. Floyd's birthday, we could comment on that.
Oh. Happy birthday. We only have 3 minutes, man.
Only 3 minutes of public
It's
comment.
only 3 minutes. Sorry, I had to.
No, it's a good one.
Any board members have this, want to take the opportunity to talk? No? All right, we will close the public comment section then. We do have need for a non-public session under RSA 91-A:3, 2,
B, C,
C.
Person security,
Yeah, it's like
and I.
B, C, and I.
B, C, and I.
So I will move to go into non-public.
I'll second.
Roll call, Ms. Maureen is yes. Ms. Arroyo?
Yes.
Mr. Winslow?
Yes.
All right, we are now in non-public.